You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the show where we take a wander around the week in Apple news, reviews, technology, associated products, and all sorts of other things that catch our eye. This is another episode of the Essential Apple Podcast. Hello everybody, and welcome to yet another edition. And I expect some of you have noticed we've changed the theme tune yet again. I may alternate this one with the other theme tune, but that theme tune was sent in by a young listener who doesn't particularly want to be named. So thank you for that, and maybe we'll have that alternating with the other theme tune. Anyway, this week we have a special guest. I'm going to attempt to pronounce his Ukrainian surname and not mess it up, but it's Alex. I'm going to guess it's Tsepko.
Correct.
Oh,
You are closer than most of people, so
right.
good for you.
I was going to say I'm going to take a guess that that it starts like Tsar, so that makes it Zep. Hello. Oops. Oh no, he's back. All right. I will just explain to the listeners, if Alex's audio isn't perfect, he's driving and he has small children in the car. So 2 small children in the car with him. So if you hear some noise from his family, you'll have to forgive us. Right. So Alex is the CEO of Skylum, the makers of Luminar. And I believe you simply, quite recently, you've merged, have you not, with Photolemur or purchased Photolemur? I'm not quite sure exactly what it was.
It's more of a joining forces. We've launched Photolemur as a separate business, but we always owned it. So it was 3 of us who started Skylum, who founded Skylum, and we co-founded Photolemur as well. It's just that close to a weird business decision to keep things separate, but then we figured out that we are stronger as a single company that will simply promote both Photolemur and Luminar and future products under one brand. So it's we didn't acquire it, we merged, we joined forces, if you want to put it this way.
Yeah, that's fair enough, because I did read that one of the co-founders was, if I got this the right way round, one of the co-founders of Skylum is a co-founder of Photolemur, or vice versa. I can't remember now.
It's I would say all of the co-founders of Skylum are also the co-founders of Photolemur.
Okay, right. So really, it's a coming together. It's a synergy.
Correct. It's correct.
Merger.
It's a synergy. Correct, and it made sense to do it earlier, but we focused on other things. The business teams and the development teams were different, but the ownership was the same. And then we just thought that let's just put it all together and develop it all as one thing, rather than just keeping them separately.
Well, that's fair.
Makes things much easier for both the business owners and the consumers as well, because for consumers, when they get some updates and news from Photolemur, and that sounds very similar to to the communications that we keep around our other products. We just didn't want to confuse anyone, and clarity is everything. So we decided that we'd like to keep things clear.
Right. So and just for a bit of clarity on that point, then, Alex, explain to me what Photolemur does that is different to Luminar, because I've used Luminar, but I've never used Photolemur. And
okay.
I look at I'm looking at what Photolemur does, and it seems very similar sort of thing, with auto adjustment and color, your AI-based, machine learning focused kind of auto adjustment. So
right. Well, the difference is in the user workflow and the user experience, and that's the main thing. So imagine there are people like you and me who are non-professional photographers, but would still like some sort of a control and have some experience with Lightroom or similar software. Then this is the audience for Aurora or Luminar. But then there is a massive audience of hundreds of millions of people who would never use a traditional photo software because it's either too complex, so they have no idea what saturation, or clarity is, or they have they're not sure what the masking is, or targeted targeted editing is. So there are a lot of people who take photos but who don't edit photos, and who simply want to get great results either straight off a camera or automatically. So this is where Photolemur comes. The benefit of using Photolemur is that you're not using any sliders. You just dump everything into the software, and then we use a deep machine learning to balance the image, to improve the look of the image, as if a manual photo editor would do. So to put things simply, Luminar is for semi-professional, serious amateurs, professional photographers who want to get more control and have more freedom in terms of editing and enhancing images. So Photolemur is for a massive audience of photo enthusiasts, photo lovers, who just don't want to mess with sliders, don't want to mess with controls, but want that balanced, well executed look to their images that their camera can deliver necessarily straight from the raw image.
Sort of a fully automated deep machine learning power.
I mean, I think because the concept of the software is new to any user, basically, it will be very important to explain the vision behind it first, and then the user experience. Because very often when we look at the software and we think of photo editing, the first thing that comes to mind is should I move sliders? Should I click buttons to apply presets? So I move curves and so on and so forth. And so even the most basic photo software like Apple Photos, for example, brings you all those sliders and everything to adjust the image. And the vision and the philosophy behind Photolemur is, as I said, is basically is so simple and so new that a lot of people just think it's too simple and therefore less powerful. But in reality, there is a very, very complex math and engineering behind Photolemur that makes things look so simple. And in reality, we look at almost 50 different parameters when adjusting the image. So it's not just a preset or a filter that makes an image better. It's actually a different adjustment to every image that you put inside the Photolemur. So it will adjust images with different information differently. It will enhance raw images better than JPEGs, for example, because raw has more data. It will apply a lot of changes to dark images, while it won't touch a more image with a better lighting condition. But then it all comes purely automatically, and the idea is to save people from spending hours or even minutes using that manual photo editors.
Okay, and you were going to explain to us about the machine learning, how that powers both Photolemur and some parts of Luminar?
Sure. So when we look at Photolemur, we started with what is called supervised machine learning. And, I'm not an engineer myself, not as smart as the rest of the team. So I'll try to explain it in very basic words. So when I say supervised machine learning, that basically means our engineers have put a very, very extensive data set inside the Photolemur engine, about 200,000 photos in total by this date. And they were putting both before and after images of all kinds to teach the algorithm to move from, an original image to the enhanced one. So originally, the images were enhanced by human, and the machine looked at the way human was fixing those. And eventually it was learning to fix the images itself. So basically we took a lot of before original images, we processed a lot of images, we took a lot of photos from our friends who are photographers and put it inside Photolemur. And this is how it learned to do tricks. And this is the kind of machine learning that's built inside Photolemur. And but right now it's only enhancement, which works great for most of the photos, but not as great as we wanted to work. So in August, we will be launching a new version, which will automatically enhance skin, fix portraits, make eyes look better, and also add styles to the photos. So it will not only adjust detail, saturation, contrast, and these traditional adjustments. It will also, not by default, but if a customer wants, it will also apply the stylization to the images, making them look more analog, more vintage, if you want, kind of like bringing those styles to the photos in addition to just adjustments.
Right. Okay.
This is for Photolemur, and this is for Photolemur. In Luminar, it's a little bit more complex because from Luminar, we think, and we want people to expect much more than from a Photolemur. From Luminar, we want people to expect an alternative to Photoshop and Lightroom altogether. So when we look at what machine learning can do for Luminar, then we were looking at the user experience and user workflows. So, for instance, we've noticed that an average photographer spends a lot of time in Adobe Bridge, in Camera Raw. Sorry about that. In Camera Raw, and they do all these basic manual adjustments with exposure and contrast and other things. Then they go to Lightroom, for example, stick with Photoshop and play with curves to adjust different areas of the image manually. Again, from adjusting exposure, brightness, and contrast to saturation, highlights, shadows, and so on and so forth. So when we developed a filter called Accent AI in Luminar, we thought, can we put all those dozen of different adjustments into one slider? And then when you move a slider, can we teach an artificial intelligence? Can we teach Luminar to analyze different parts of that image and apply selective adjustments based on on its learning, on what we teach it? And that's how the Accent AI filter was born. So it when you move it in Luminar, it applies. It's like a base starting point for many photographers right now. So instead of just messing with 5, 6, 7 different sliders, they just move Accent AI and get the basic level of adjustment for the photos, and then they can move on and apply different other parameters and other things. So that's how we use that's how we started with AI in Luminar, and now we are taking it a little bit further. So with the next version, we'll introduce, and I'm not sure if I can even say that for right now, but yeah, that's fine. Let's just, anyway. We are done with that filter, so it's not a secret. We just need to wait until we launch it. So basically, we've noticed that a lot of photographers who use Luminar are nature and landscape photographers, and one of the things that these photographers usually spend most of their time with is the sky, because you know that sky makes any photo. The good sky will make a photo look great. The bad-looking sky will just destroy the image. So we've developed a technology that can automatically detect the sky, and then you move a slider, and it will adjust the sky and make it look more dramatic, more vivid, and more attractive. But what's great about that is that even if you have lots of different objects on the foreground, like trees or rooftops or any, the adjustment won't touch that. It will only be applied to the sky, and then we will use this as a similar machine learning tech in fixing skin, in working with some faces, and so on and so forth. So while just to make a long story short, and sorry for taking so long,
that's fine.
To make it really clear, in Photolemur, we use AI and, as I said, some supervised machine learning to automatically adjust the image and help people save time without touching extra buttons and sliders. While in Luminar, we use these artificial intelligence, these algorithms to help people and users perform traditional tasks more efficient and faster. So it's not if you will still need to move a slider to decide which amount of change you want to apply. But if with any other software you would spend a lot of time, maybe minutes, maybe more than that, fixing sky with different masks and layers, you can do it with a single slider in Luminar. What would take longer time of adjusting the image and the basic parameters in your raw file takes takes seconds in one slider with Accent AI. So in Luminar, we are keeping it very we are keeping it very precise, and we try to to meet the criteria of a professional photographer and just save their time and make their workflow more efficient.
Taking it so instead of having to, as you say, instead of having to mess with the the saturation and the brightness and the contrast, and the machine can basically do most of that for you, and you can control how much you want to apply, really.
Correct. Think of it. Any camera these days comes with an auto mode or exposure compensation mode, and it's not just for beginners. It's basically to save your time, so you can focus on composition. You can focus on some other things. So why should a software be all manual, right? You still get the full control over the final image because you have a lot of different tools. But for some things, it's great to automate the process as long as you can get the same or better of the result than you would get manually. It's all about spending less. And again, it's not probably the best statement from a CEO of a software company, but we still try to let people spend less time in front of a screen with the software and more time taking photos. So that's why the whole approach to making the software, use it, spend less time doing traditional manipulations, if you want to put it this way, but still get the same great results with the software.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, I know some of our listeners are Luminar users. Suffolk Pete, I know, is a big fan.
I think those who are not users, and again, feel free to cut this out if you want, but I think that the best approach to get the best way to get a feel of Luminar is to download the free version and then go to the workspace that we call Quick and Awesome, and just use 3 basic sliders that we put into that workspace, and those are the Accent AI, then saturation, and then clarity. And basically those 3 sliders can act instead of, I would say, maybe 12, 15 different sliders in other software, and get that quick and awesome look. And it's just less than 1% of everything that Luminar has, but it clearly clearly communicates the concept of helping people perform complex things faster and then make photos faster. So just it will take seconds to get an idea.
Well, I mean, when we had Kevin on last year, obviously this isn't a video show, so people couldn't see, but Mark, chucked an image to him through wire and said, "I've got this shot, and it's not a great shot. It was a shot of some mugs that were supposed to have been taken in the studio, and they weren't very well lit, and so on. And Kevin threw them in Luminar, and 30 seconds later sent back an image that was massively enhanced. So, that was in fact, if you go to, I think it's Essential Apple 63, the picture of the mugs is on the show art.
Mm-hmm.
So, now, one thing I do want to ask you about, Alex, because my listeners will beat me with sticks if I don't ask you about it, and that's the digital asset management. Now, last time, Kevin said that there would be digital asset management would be coming for Luminar, and I know a lot of the users who, people in our Slack room, particularly people like Alistair Jenks, who's a real heavy, takes a lot of photographs, and he's very serious about his cataloguing because a lot of his photographs are aerospace photographs. He's big on photographing. So currently he uses Lightroom, I think, and he uses a lot of nested tagging so that if he enters let's say Boeing, it will immediately offer him the sub tags for the different types of aircraft and then the nationalities and so on. So he's very keen to hear what sort of digital asset management Skylum are working on and when it's likely to appear, because I think he's quite keen to shift over to using Luminar, but he's not prepared to move full time to Luminar until he can do his cataloging that way as well.
Yeah, well, I hear you, and I understand that perfectly. I'm I'm a Lightroom user myself. I use Luminar as a plugin until I can move to our digital asset management platform and switch to Luminar 100%. So I understand, I hear you, and the only thing I can tell you for sure is that we would have released it much earlier if it was not for for our belief that we are too late in the too late in time to simply launch a clone of Lightroom, or simply launch something which will be less efficient for people than Lightroom, or let's say less speedy than photo mechanics. And when we started thinking of a digital asset management, a lot of people who we talked to asked us about it. And then we started talking to these people. And the more we talked, the more we understood that first, they don't simply want a clone of Lightroom. And and secondly, there are so many different workflows that these people, have, that just guessing doesn't really make sense. So with our digital asset management, one thing is for sure, it's coming this year, and one thing is for sure, it's coming this autumn. Now, the challenge is that if you want a real alternative, and if you want people to literally switch from other software, then you have to make it fast, you have to make it secure, and you have to make it really simple. And when I say simple, what we are trying to achieve is we want people to clearly know how to use it, within 10 seconds. Within 10 seconds after they launch the software. And if we want these people to be familiar with the software 10 seconds after they launch it, then that means it should start running really fast, so they have enough time to even, get familiar with the interface. So with that in mind, we are doing our best. The software is currently in closed beta by our team and a number of photographers who are testing it. So, I mean, definitely fall as early as possible. And then I've asked the team to start what we call internally developers diaries, starting from this July, that will constantly update everyone on the progress and our thinking behind every feature and every part of digital asset management, as well as other software. And I think being a young company, one of the mistakes that we made earlier in time was that we didn't communicate the progress well enough. We promised it, and then we did something else. But I think that we should start keeping users more updated on the progress, and I think we should manage the expectations better, and explain what to wait, when to expect the software update, and so on and so forth. And that will help us. That will help users, and I don't really like the word users, but I will help photographers. Will help photographers who expect the digital asset management kind of understand when it is coming, why we haven't released it yet, when it is coming for Windows, when it is coming for Mac, and so on and so forth. The Windows version, again, I'm not sure how many of your listeners are Windows users, but the Windows will be slightly delayed. The Mac version will come first. We decided not to wait until we able to launch both versions, and the reason for that is that we've been a Mac software company for quite a long time. And we started building our Windows development team only 2 years ago. So we are very confident about the quality of a Windows version, but we do want to spend more time doing quality assurance for it. So it will come as a little bit later. But again, to make a long story short, definitely this fall, definitely very fast, very simple user experience. And plus a number of cool tricks that other software doesn't have, that will help make the management of images even more efficient.
Oh, excellent. That's good. And I'm pretty sure that, for example, I know that Alistair, who's a regular contributor to this show and was on a few weeks ago, I know that he would rather wait and have it work, superbly, rather than have it rushed out and then find that it doesn't work as well as he'd hoped. So, I think you're right. Just letting users and customers know what's happening is always a.
Yeah, this is first thing, and second, again, this has been a belief and philosophy of of myself and the rest of the team, is that the competition on the photography software market is fierce, and it's not the time to just create a cool big marketing slogan and then try to announce that you are gonna change the world and disrupt the industry and move Adobe from the first place. It makes a lot of development effort, a lot of human resources, a lot of research and everything to literally deliver something that's meaningful and that's that has a quality that corresponds to expectations. So because there was so many different alternatives to Adobe over the last couple of years, we feel that just before launching our alternative, again, before making the splash, before launching the product update, we want to make sure that the team who is building it, and most of the team consists of either professional or amateur photographers. We are confident ourselves that we'll deliver something great to the photography community. So I hate waiting myself. And every time when engineering team tells me that they need some more time to check that, to check this, I think that everything could be done, immediately, because I have no idea how hard that is. But when I see when they start talking and trying to get me into that conversation, I understand that if it sounds complex, then it's definitely very complex on the execution level.
Yeah.
So it's worth waiting. I strongly believe that the best things will always come right on time when they're meant to come on time. And I'm really thankful to every Luminar user and the other photographers who bear with us. And again, just like I said, we'll do our best to communicate that more, I'd say, more in a more mature way, like big companies do, to not just sit there and wait. And we'll do our best to manage the expectations in a more proper way.
All right, that's excellent. And you have another product, of course, which I'd like to talk about, Alex, and that's the Aurora HDR.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm not really a photographer, so can you? I know what HDR is, but could you explain to me exactly what Aurora HDR is designed to do?
Sure. And let me go back a couple of years in the past and tell you a little backstory, but I promise to make it really fast. So we started as an iPhone app company and dived into photography from an iPhone ecosystem, iPhone space. And then our CTO, who is Dima, he was one of the first to get into professional photography, and he was learning from three people basically. He was learning photography from Trey Radcliffe, Serge Remeli, and Scott Kelby. So these three people, they taught him on how to make photography and how to use the software and play with the composition and so on and so forth. And Dima really liked Trey Radcliffe because of his images back then. And Trey was a pioneer in HDR photography. He was one of the first who started to shoot brackets and merging that together. And he was one of the first making these vivid, highly contrast, detailed, sometimes oversaturated images that we know as HDR photos. So though HDR photography is not just that, there are different varieties of HDR photography. But Dima got into that photography thanks to Trey Radcliffe, and he started shooting brackets and so on and so forth. And he was using Adobe Photoshop, he was using Lightroom, he was using Photomatix, he was using many different pieces of software to blend his HDR images together. And again, the workflow was not efficient at all. So 3.5-4 years ago, we didn't know a lot of people in the photography industry, and we obviously didn't know Trey Radcliffe, but we knew Lori Rubin, who is a US wildlife photographer, and she knew Trey Ratcliffe. So we asked Lori to introduce us to Trey and see if Trey wants to do a software, an HDR software together. So, luckily for us, Trey said yes, and this is how we launched the Aurora HDR together. That is an HDR photography editor that can work well with different brackets, that can produce a really great either natural or extreme HDR from your photos. We are working to make Aurora a really good single image editor dedicated to that HDR look. So it's not an alternative to Luminar or Lightroom, but there are a lot of photographers who like HDR looks in any sort of way. So this is for whom we are building Aurora. We first thought it's a very small niche, to tell you the truth, so launched it for Mac only. But then we launched it for Windows and got blown away by the number of people who downloaded it. And then when Apple named it the best app of the last year, we understood that even HDR photography is first of all, it's not about HDR photography and niche anymore. Second, it's not about professional photography anymore. It's more about everyone who wants some good looks, some nice results with his photos. So that's how a niche software, Aurora HDR, has become a very massive mass market tool. And we launched it over 4 years ago, and now it's literally has a decent number of downloads around the globe. People love it. Trey continues to use it. Serge Remeli uses it as his default HDR software. He has produced a number of great books with photos made with Aurora. So I would say if you want to separate three pieces of software that we are currently creating for consumers, then Aurora is for HDR, classic HDR. I would even say fake HDR look if you want to use it with a single image.
The sort of single image HDR, yeah. Which,
correct.
Adobe started doing that, didn't they? Where you take a single image and you give it an HDR look by altering the dark areas and the light areas.
Yep. So this is what Aurora HDR. And then we are launching a new version in September with a new algorithm dedicated to mostly to real estate and architecture photographers, because there's a very certain criteria that they have towards the HDR images, but then it will work great with nature as well. Then we have Luminar, an upcoming, I wouldn't call it an alternative to Adobe Lightroom right now, but we are building it as the one. We are building it as an upcoming alternative. Right now it's a complement because you can use it as a plugin as well as a standalone software. And then we have Photolemur, which is a very consumer-oriented automated photo enhancement software. So this is what we have for photographers who are individuals, for consumer photographers.
Well, that sounds like a very broad stable, really, Alex. Sort of something for everybody.
Right. We thought that we really thought that, and we still think that we are missing a mobile aspect to it. And then we thought that we were always missing a cloud-based photo software or photo solution. So but then on a desktop with Windows and Mac, we do have a pretty good family of products. And this year we'll also launch cloud-based solutions, just to make sure that if there are photographers on a mobile or tablet or anywhere, Linux maybe, Google Pixelbook on Android, then they can use some of our tech in the cloud as well. So we'll be launching some cloud services for, I wouldn't say services, but cloud photo editing tools for businesses and consumer photographers alike.
Oh, well, excellent. Well, thank you very much. Yeah.
Am I being too detailed and
no, not at all. You're fine.
Too boring?
No, not at all. It's absolutely fascinating. And I'll assure you, this is exactly what the listeners love. One of the things they love when we have industry people come on is to let them talk in depth, because what my listeners like to hear, is sort of the inside story, as it were, rather more than just the marketing PR release. They like to hear, what the developers or the company owners or the people behind the software, what drives them and what motivates them and what their goals are. So that's excellent. And thank you very much for coming on, Alex.
Thank you so much. Invite us more. Always happy to talk and share some insights and of course talk about the photography.
Well, of course. And when maybe later in the year when some of your new products are out, we'll have you back on again.
You got it. Anytime.
All right, fabulous. Thanks a lot, Alex.
Thank you. Have a fantastic day, fantastic evening, and have enjoy taking great photos. That's probably the best thing. Yeah, have fun.
All right, thank you very much, Alex. And that was Alex Tsepko, the CEO of Skylum Software. And thank you very much, Alex, for agreeing to come on our show. And now, for the rest of the show, I am going to be joined by Suffolk Pete. Hello, Pete. How are you?
I'm all right, mate.
It's very hot today, isn't it? Yeah, hot and sweaty.
Incredibly warm, yes.
Yes. I don't know what the temperature is, about 29 degrees, I think.
It must be. It's 27 in our kitchen at the moment.
I reckon it's probably 30 outside.
Yeah.
But it's typical English weather. It's hot, but also sticky. Anyway,
and
there we go.
And no end in sight, from what I've seen on the Met Office app.
The west of England, southwest England and West Wales have got a yellow thunderstorm warning.
Yeah, so and I did chuckle this morning when the news said it's the first time that they have issued a thunderstorm warning. And then it was pointed out they've only started issuing them last week. And this is the first one. But the BBC news story said it's the first time the Met Office have issued a thunderstorm warning in its 140-year history.
That makes it the worst thunderstorm ever. No, it's just the first one they've introduced after they've decided they're going to do it.
Yeah. So that did make me chuckle.
Clickbait or what? Right. Well, so what have we got this week, Pete? There was.
Well, I think you posted something in the Slack room earlier this week that's close to both our hearts, and that's font management.
Yes. Yeah. Font management. Now, obviously, being in the professional design side of the industry, fonts are something that you have to have a lot of. You tend to collect over time an awful lot. I think I've got about nearly 30,000.
That's quite impressive.
In individual faces, although there's probably an awful lot of duplication in there. I mean, I could probably tell you I've probably got 20 different Helveticas, for example, and probably 10 different aerials, and so on. And also, you end up with copies, so I can't tell you how many different sorts of Garamond I've got.
And
Garamond.
And you can't tell us that because you don't have proper font management. Is that right?
Well, do I have a proper font manager? Yes.
Right.
But 30,000. I can't be bothered counting them. Now, way back when, in the days of yore, the only way to activate fonts was using a thing called DA Font Manager, and you had to insert the fonts into the system or take fonts out of the system. And to some extent, that is still pretty much how most people who don't have a font manager work. You put the fonts in the fonts folder, and then you have a list of 200 or 500 fonts or whatever it is, and those are always in your font menu, and you never really think.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, back in the day, professionals soon broke what in System 6 I think was 128 typeface limit. There was 100. You could have 128 typefaces in the system.
Really? Is that all?
Yeah. Back in System 6, that was, I think, you could only have 128 faces in the system. So the font manager that everybody used way back then, and for a long time, was an application called Suitcase.
Yeah.
And Suitcase has been owned over the years by a variety of Suitcase originally was simply a tool that allowed you to choose some fonts and say, I'd like these fonts turned on, and it would turn those fonts on. And when you're done, you could say turn those fonts off. And that was a way to break the 128 font limit. Obviously, the Mac and everything else has moved on a long, long way since there. But, nobody wants to be dumping 30,000 fonts into their system.
No.
It's not going to. Besides which, your font list would be, completely. You'd never find anything. It would be unmanageable. So obviously, a font manager is an application that allows you to create groups of fonts, sets of related fonts, and most importantly, of course, simply to activate and deactivate fonts on the fly for use. Suitcase is still around. It's now called Suitcase Fusion. I stopped using Suitcase Fusion some years ago when I found it became very, very sluggish. And it didn't seem to like operating nicely with the Adobe suite, particularly. Right. And so I changed over to what was at the time, I believe, called Linotype Font Explorer Pro. That started out as a free app, actually, just called Font Explorer, if I recall. But Linotype bought it, and now I think it's just called Font Explorer Pro again. Okay. But both of those products are not cheap. They're not super expensive. I think they'll set you back sort of £60 to buy. But if you're not a professional, that's quite a lot of money to lay out simply to be able to turn fonts on and off at will. So there did used to be a few more font handling applications back in the day, but many of them have fallen by the wayside. So I was quite pleased to come across an article on, I think it was on Tuts Plus, the tutorials, saying I think it was something like 9 great font management apps that you should explore. Some of them were for Windows and some were for Mac. And amongst them, I came across what is really a little bit of a gem, and that is FontBase, a free, beautiful, and fast font manager. And this app is available for Windows and Linux and Mac. It's free to download and use. It does all the things you'd expect to do. That is, allows you to make groups of fonts, turn fonts on and off, all sorts of things. It seems relatively quick. It seems competent. I did install it and chuck 30,000 fonts at it and see how it coped. It stuttered for a little bit, on that lot, but it seemed to load most of them. It does all the things you really want it to do, and it is free to use. Well, it's brilliant. It's completely free. There's a mode called Awesome Mode, which I think they ask you to pay to get the awesome features. Costs, I think it's $3 a month. So there's a subscription. Right. And that allows a few, really quite advanced features. And it turns on auto activation of fonts if you're using Creative Cloud app. Right. So that, if you open a newsletter that you're designing in InDesign, say, it would find and open all the fonts that are in there rather than telling you need to open these fonts, it will do it for you. But I have to be fair, if you're a non-professional user and you're looking for a free font management app, I would probably say you are most likely not using Creative Cloud.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But even so, it works perfectly well. It seems to work very nicely. It's very clean, really good looking. And so, yes, I've put that down for the chirp of the week, I have to say.
I can see why. I'm on their website now, and it does look quite interesting. You can create collections on the fly for things, for fonts that you use for a poster design. You can just pick them up and drag them in there. Obviously, you can make favorites. You can,
you can preview all your fonts that way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. This, and like you, I've got a lot of fonts. I've got about 3,000 fonts. And we used to use in my old job. We used to use Suitcase, which I used to enjoy. But now I just, do graphic design for fun, really, at home. Then Suitcase is a bit of overkill, and it costs money, so I don't bother. But this looks ideal.
Yes, this, I think I'm really probably going to bang the drum about this one, because font management is one of those things that if you've used it, in a professional or a semi-professional context, going back to not being able to do it is really a fag. But at the same time, as I say, most professional font managers are not only money, but often quite a lot of money.
They're not cheap, are they? They used to be.
They're not $15, $20. They tend to be $70, $80, $100.
Yeah. There used to be one on the App Store that I used, whose name I can't remember now, but it's fallen by the wayside because I think it was it's no longer supported, or it disappeared. I can't remember what happened to it, but that went. And since then I've just been doing it manually, really.
Well, I mean, of course, on the Mac you have got Fontbook, but Fontbook is a bit clunky, to be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel it doesn't feel much better than doing it manually, to be honest.
No, it's not, and you have to spend so much time setting up font favorites and collections, etc. Sometimes it's easy to write down your favourite fonts on a piece of paper, and then just when you're in Quark or whatever.
I mean, on their site here, Fontbase, it says, and that they're at fontba.se. Very clever. Font management perfected, all platforms, professional features, beautiful UI, totally free. The font manager of a new generation, built by designers for designers. Now, we hear a lot of that sort of thing when you go to app sites, but I can't say I've used this in anger, really, but I've played with it, and it looks very good. And I have to say, like you, Pete, I think I'm going to be installing this on my Mac at home, because obviously I don't have a font manager on my Mac at home. And I do miss it. I really do. I just like obviously that's what I do, and I like playing with fonts. I like fonts, so the ability to switch fonts on the fly is something I really miss when I'm working at home. And also it's available for Windows, so I might be able to put a font manager on my bloody Windows virtual machine, because let's face it, font management on Windows is pretty much non-existent.
Yeah. Definitely.
You have to dump everything in the system and live with it. And apparently this will fix that. So I'll be experimenting with that on my virtual machine for sure.
And it's something I might be able to explore at work, because I use Windows 10 at work now, and although we're just getting a new IT manager, so I'll probably leave that until September, and then just add it to the list of stuff I want added to my machine.
Either that, or you've got to sneak it in now.
Yeah, sneak it in now. Yes.
Sneak it in now before they go, what's this? It's always been there. Don't worry about that. It's always been there, mate.
That's it. Yeah.
You don't need to worry about that.
Nothing to see here. Yeah.
Nothing to see here. Move along. So yes, you're right. That was a really good find, actually. And as we sort of seem to be doing the worth of chirps first, and no reason not to, I suppose. I will just say that Donny's giveaway for his Rock Picks, Doodled Notes, and 11 Kickers sticker set is still available. I've still got some codes for those. So if anybody wants a set of Donny's stickers, which are available in the US, the UK, and Canada, still sorry, Alistair, send me an email at essentialapple@sudomail, that's SUDO mail.com, and I'll send you a set of them.
Yeah, they look really good.
Yep. And I will send you some codes to redeem for his 3 sets of stickers. There we go.
Excellent.
And also, Mac Jim has sent in a Vanja USB 3 card reader, USB Type-C, USB 3A, SD, micro SD card reader, and adapter for about 5 million other types of mini SD cards.
So the picture on the Amazon website seems to have lots of things sticking out of it.
Yes, it seems to take a lot of different cards. It's about, I noticed there are 3 different types available, a $6.99 one, an $8.99 one, and a $10.99 one, and they vary in their connections available. The cheapest one is USB 2A and micro USB. The middle price one, the $8.99 one, interestingly has a rather clever USB A2, which flicks up to reveal a micro USB inside it.
That's clever.
and a USB-C on the other end. And then the third one, the most expensive one, is USB 3A and USB-C. And so they're $6.99, $8.99, and $10.99. So if you, Pete, there's not a Lightning one. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Adapter.
Yeah, I could probably do with that.
I think there are Lightning ones available. You'd have to dig on Amazon. I think you can get similar, not from them, but similar product. But that's a tip there from Mac Jim. Quite a sort of under £10 and get a USB read all sorts of cards device. So right. Well, perhaps we'll do some stories now.
Yeah.
Let's do some stories. Well, we've had Tim Cook defends controversial focus on social issues and says Apple sticks to its policy, not politics. Did you see that? Did you see that interview?
Yes. I didn't see it. I read through the script of the interview.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's quite heartening to see he seems to have picked up where Steve Jobs probably left off. Apple is a company with some morals, it would seem.
Yes, I don't know that it's a controversial focus on social issues. I don't think. I think Apple have always kind of. I know, obviously, some people say that Tim. Well, I'm pretty sure Tim has advanced that stance because he came out as gay. Openly came out as gay. I think he's the first American CEO to ever do so. He certainly, encourages the Apple employees to march at Pride and whatnot if they want to. They have a fairly heavy stance on solar power, don't they? Renewable energy, that sort of thing. And why not? I don't think there's anything controversial. Why should a company not have a moral stance?
Yeah,
I don't. They say that they're for diversity and openness, and they're against racism.
And as Tim Cook says, that companies are a collection of people, and therefore, by extension, should have values. And I think he's right. Yeah,
I do. And they've made a stand again as well, haven't they, on privacy and data? Uses data and that sort of thing. So, well done. Well done, Uncle Tim,
yes.
I think.
Yeah.
That's all we have to say about that. Quite right. And keep waving the flag, rainbow-coloured or otherwise. Possibly sort of the biggest story or not of the week, depending on your point of view. The Apple-Samsung thermonuclear war is over.
Oh, right.
No, the link I've got here is, but at least we got these iPhone prototype photos from the battle. This one was on Business Insider UK, and I picked that up because there are some photos that have apparently come to light as part of the whole shenanigans. But yes, it appears to have died with a whimper. Apparently, Apple and Samsung came to an out-of-court settlement, which is not being disclosed to anybody. After the last court case ended with Apple getting awarded $500 million as opposed to the $1 billion they were awarded previously. And it's been booted up and down the legal ladder. Apparently, out of court, Apple and Samsung have agreed an undisclosed settlement and agreed that they should just sweep it under the carpet and stop worrying about it.
You can't help thinking that perhaps if they'd got together and sorted this out 7 years ago instead of starting a 7-year legal battle.
I think the lawyers might have had something to do with that.
Precisely, yeah.
It's like one of those, it's like a bad divorce gone horribly wrong. When I heard that, I couldn't help thinking, and for an undisclosed sum, I couldn't help thinking of that thing in Trading Places where they end up, and then, the bets for $1.
Yeah.
I can imagine the chairman of Samsung and Uncle Tim getting together and like, can we just settle this? Look, I'll tell you what, here's $1.
Yeah. That's it, yeah.
Here's $1. If I give you $1 and admit that we stole off you, will that do?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. That's it, yeah.
All right, fine.
Yeah, I'll take the $1 and we'll take an admission from you that you stole it from us. And
you stole it, and that'll do. Right, just admit you stole it and give me $1, and we'll never mention it again. I think the happiest person in the world about that is going to be Bart. Bart Bouchotz will never have to talk about the Apple Samsung law case, which has been going on longer than he's been doing his show.
Right. Yeah.
Well, all I can say about that is, really, Couldn't they have done that some time ago? There. Apple is rebooting its Maps app with rebuilt map data.
Yeah, interesting.
Carl was talking about this actually on the Mac and Forth show. Yeah, basically they say they're going to rebuild Apple Maps from the ground up, starting in San Francisco. What a surprise!
Yeah, of course, yes. And they have their own mapping vehicles, just like Google.
Yeah, well, they've been like Google. They've been having their own cars going around, getting kind of street map level material. And apparently they've been buying in all new high resolution satellite data. And apparently they're going to rebuild the whole thing gradually over the next few years from the ground up.
Yeah, interesting. They say they've been collecting data from 2015 from Apple Map vans, high-resolution satellite imagery, and what Apple calls probe data from iOS devices. I'm interested in that probe data from iOS devices.
What Carl was saying is that if you opt in... If you've opted in on when you turn on the location services on all your iOS, I think there's a button saying, "Are you happy to share data with Apple?"
Right. Yes.
What they're saying is that most of that data is actually kept on your device, but it's sending information when you make a journey, but it doesn't divulge the start of the journey or the end.
Okay.
So I don't know quite how they make that work. I guess if it's processed on your device. It only sends the information from the middle of the journey, say 10 minutes after you start and 10 minutes before you end. But anyway, apparently it does not divulge where you started or where you ended, and it's anonymised in the usual Apple manner. So that it just sends a load of data about the journey and how it relates to what Apple think about their map, and they're using that as another way to...
Interesting. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm not a huge Apple Maps Apple Maps user, but I have used it. And despite all the, snarky comments that people make, whenever I've used it, I've never found it to be any worse than anything else I've used.
No, I use it all the time for sat nav and the like. In fact, I've got a sat nav app that I've paid for on my iPhone, which I hardly ever use now. Because I just use the Apple Maps app all the time.
I mean, I tend to use I've got a free sat nav app called NavMe, and that's NAVMII, a bit like the Nintendo Mii's. Don't ask me why. It didn't used to be called that. It's had about 4 names, and its look and feel keeps changing. I think it keeps changing hands, but it still keeps working. And it's, as far as I can tell, it's powered by the OpenStreetMap data. That's very good, very, very good, and it's free. And that has in-app purchases you can buy. You can have Samuel L. Jackson tell you the directions. If you want to give them $5, or you can have, whatever. You can have Crocodile Dundee tell you the instructions, that sort of thing. And you can purchase things like speed camera location, and I think you can pay to have a sort of Waze like traffic avoidance, those sort of things. But that is that's pretty good, but it's not perfect.
Actually, and I noticed that obviously they're starting in America with and it's going to be rolled out in iOS 12, starting in Northern California, and then across the rest of the US. So it's going to be some while before it gets to Suffolk in the UK.
As poor old Alistair Jenks in New Zealand said, well, bugger, I don't think it's going to do any good for me.
No, it'd probably be iOS 13 before it gets...
Well, I don't think... there's a whole load of things he hasn't got yet. In New Zealand, they can't get Apple Pay, they can't get...
Oh, really?
Home pods, they can't get... Oh, there's all sorts of things he can't get, and not available in New Zealand. It's unbelievable. Anyway, there we are. So, I found that quite interesting. I guess they're just going back to the start, saying, let's just start rebuilding the whole thing. Yeah,
and I think they want the everything under their own control rather than having to pay anybody else for services.
I mean, they are. It says they're buying they are buying in high resolution satellite data. I don't know where they got it from before. I think they might have had to kind of buy what they could get originally to make the best of it. But there we go. Well, I'll tell you what, Pete, why don't we take a quick break and we'll have John can tell us, I believe he's got a bike courier bag to review this week, and then we'll come back and we talk about the security stories, shall we?
Okay, lovely.
All right then, We'll take 5.
Cheers.
We've been talking on Nemo's hardware store about a lot of accessories and other great items for travel, but what are you going to carry all this stuff in? Our friends at Waterfield, and their website is sfbags.com. The company is Waterfield Designs, but their website is sfbags.com. SF like San Francisco. This product is called the Vitesse, Vitesse, Cycling Musette, Musette. Comes in 2 colors, brown or navy. I like the brown color better, but the navy is still quite attractive. I just prefer, if it's going to get all beat up, I want it to look more brown to begin with rather than blue. And you can get it with or without a flap. Without the flap, which I highly recommend to get, it's $69, and with the flap, it's $89 in the US. So the one I have is the brown Vitesse Cycling Musette with the flap. And you've seen cyclists and messengers wearing these things all over town. It's got a thick, unpadded, double canvas, really strong canvas strap that goes over one shoulder and then around my back. And then on the back, the musette sits. It's about 1 foot by 1.5 feet in its dimension. It has a round knob for closing it, very low tech and retro. Just snap the leather flap into this round knob, and that holds it in place. And inside, there's just a large open space, again, about 1 foot by 1.5 feet by about 2 to 3, 4 inches deep or across. And then there's 2 smaller flaps, 2 pockets that you could put chargers, phones, pencils, sandwich, other stuff in. So if you're going to carry your computer or go to the gym, put your shoes in here, put your change of clothes, it's very, very basic. The 1 single compartment and then the 2 slide-in deep pockets with no closers on those on the inside. They're all open. So it's very, very basic. Stow and go. Put your stuff in here, fling it over your back or your shoulder, get on the tube, get on the bus, get on the bike, go in the car, go on foot. Incredibly strong and durable waxed canvas. I've been using these waxed canvas products from Waterfield Design, sfbags.com, for many, many years. These things will outlast me and you put together. It's a strange thing to feel and see when you first get the rugged, sort of weathered look, the pre-weathered look of their waxed canvas. But do not be confused about the quality at sfbags.com. Waterfield Designs and SF Bags makes good stuff, fairly priced, that will really, really last forever. And you can go onto their website, see the different colors, see the different designs and the specifications. But for $89 US, so let's see the reviews. It's got 5 stars based on 77 reviews. Terrific, super versatile, beautiful design, best quality and detail. It's a true love. People really like this case. So have a look at their website. Back next week.
And thank you, John. That was an excellent hardware store, and all the links and prices for that courier bag will be in the show notes, of course. So, Pete, we're going to move on, and we were talking in the break about what is one of the biggest stories of the week, not an Apple story, really, a technology story, and that's the new Microsoft Surface leak reveals radical new features, according to Forbes. And this is all over the web. I mean, you can find stories about this everywhere. And this is leaks about their Andromeda project, which is a kind of spiritual successor, we're told, to the Courier device, which was the one we couldn't remember the other week, by the way. I said I thought it was Slate, but apparently that was something else. The 2-screen concept device that never went anywhere that Microsoft were talking about some years ago. It was called Courier.
Right.
But this is described as something the company has quietly incubated internally and will create a new and disruptive device category. Well, I think we've heard that quite a lot. However, it will influence the overall Surface roadmap and blur the lines between what is a PC and what is mobile. It's a new pocketable Surface device form factor, bringing together innovative new hardware and software experiences to create a truly personal and versatile computing experience. Well, that's a lot of marketing.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
That comes to nothing. However, Microsoft have unsurprisingly refused to comment on this leaked document content. However, it does confirm various things that have come up in the past. As they say here, smartphones and smaller mobile devices have been a blind spot for Microsoft in recent years. Now, I don't think that's strictly true.
No.
I'll be fair. Microsoft did bring out the Microsoft phone with the Windows 8 interface, and actually I quite liked that.
Yeah, same here. I must be I thought I was the only Apple that actually liked it.
I liked it, and actually it got a lot of critical acclaim for not doing the Android or Apple row of apps.
Yeah.
And I really liked it, and they had a short burst of success because they brought out some phones at very reasonable price point that appealed very much to parents buying phones for teenagers. I remember I bought a couple for my girls.
I think it made a lot of sense.
But they were too late, and they couldn't get the apps, and they didn't get traction, and sadly, they let it go. And whilst I can understand why they let it go, because I mean their share dropped to nothing, and they just couldn't get the apps.
Yeah.
And my girls ended up basically tossing their Microsoft phones in disgust because they couldn't get Snapchat, and they couldn't get the official Snapchat. They couldn't get Twitter, and they couldn't get this, and they couldn't get that, and it became like a farce, really. So I don't think that it really saying it's a blind spot is true. I think they tried, but they were too little, too late, and they never got traction.
Yeah.
However, the Surface, of course, seems to be the one area where they have raised a reasonable challenge.
Yeah, definitely. I think it looks the most Apple-like product from a non-Apple supplier. I really like the look of it.
Yeah,
personally.
And I notice it's being promoted heavily because if you certainly on the BBC, where you used to see iPhones and iPads everywhere, you now see an awful lot of Surface devices.
Yes, yeah.
There we go. That's product placement for you. The concept behind this thing appears to be that it will be a foldable tablet of some kind.
Yes, a pocketable device with a wraparound screen.
Yeah,
that hinges out to form a tablet-like experience. Now, that's not quite the same thing as a folding display, is it?
No, I mean the concept renders here sort of show it as a folding display because it could be two screens.
Yeah.
But I guess people say, "Oh, well, two screens. It's like it's not the same." But if it's done right, the bezels on modern devices are down to nothing. I mean, I've got a two-screen. You've seen my setup at work. I have a two-monitor display, and obviously there's a good inch of bezel down between the screens, but you don't see it when you're working.
No.
Obviously, I don't drag stuff across, literally across both screens, but or not often.
Actually, and also if you're gaming and you've got more than one display, you can get these clear plastic Fresnel lenses that clip onto the edge of your display, and then you clip the two displays together, and it merges the displays, and you don't see the bezel, which I think is really clever.
Okay, what does that do, Simon?
Well, because it's a bit like a Fresnel lens, like you used to get in the old 3D pictures.
Yeah.
So it's it's smooth plastic on one side, and on the other it's triangular ridges of
prisms.
That's it, prisms. Yes, and it just essentially takes the image from both monitors and directs it through this lens, and it kind of blurs the the edge, it does look really quite effective.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that. It'd be a bit sort of yeah, you're going to get a blurry odd bit in the middle, but it's less than having two.
That's
images.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, clever. So this device, they're saying they want to position it between the phone and the laptop. And they want it to be able to be folded back to back so that you would have a screen on sort of the front and the back, or flat like a tablet, or
Interesting. Yeah. Although, of course, if you're launching or positioning a new product between a phone and a laptop or a tablet, then I thought we'd tried that with tablets, and we decided we didn't like them. Yeah, because they're not one thing or the other.
We're not sure, but it looks like an interesting thing. It's obviously something Microsoft have been working on for some time, and it's obviously something they're not really prepared to let go. And I'm not sure. We keep seeing all this stuff. Is it? You can never tell. Sometimes these things are in the zeitgeist because they are what's coming next, and sometimes they're just because everybody feels that what should be next, and it doesn't actually take off. We shall see.
Yes.
We shall see. I mean, I've seen I've seen hints and rumours and bits of patents that suggest Apple are also working on similar kind of things. So it could be that this is where we're going. You have to probably be further into the industry and know more about what's coming down the pike, as they like to say, than you and me, Pete. I think to know how that's going to work out. And I guess like you read this other story by John Martellaro, who's coming on the show, by the way.
Is he?
Yes, on 5th of August he's scheduled to come on and talk to us. Yeah. Why we won't be giving up our Mac keyboard anytime soon. And this is, as he says, AI agents are often identified as the next I/O device and will supplant our traditional keyboards. But John thinks the keyboard will be around for a long time to come.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with him, I must admit.
Yes, I think so. And he also says, what's he say here? I needed to switch to another Mac which had a standard Apple aluminium keyboard. The dark lettering on white by contrast seemed dead, even defective and distant. We relate strongly to the sensory aspects of the keyboard, the sight, the sound, and the tactile feedback. Keyboards are generally on our minds. And then I believe he's right. It might be that it's old stick in the muds like you and me, Pete. Yeah. But I think there's a lot to be said for a good keyboard.
Yes,
and much as I very much I like touch screens and all sorts of other new technology, but there's a lot to be said for a good quality keyboard if you know how to use it.
Yeah, and very recently I had, a few months ago I bought an iPad Pro 9.7, and it came with the Apple keyboard, which initially I liked because it's very slim and it just attaches to the smart connector via magnets. But then I realised that the keys don't light up, and I really miss the backlight of the keys, for typing at night, etc. So, and I wanted to move up to the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which I've done very recently, and that is a fabulous device, I've got to say. So then I decided to buy a proper keyboard case for it.
Okay.
And Logitech make two of them. So I couldn't decide which one to buy, so I bought both of them. And now I've gone with the I had the Create, and now I've got the forgotten what they call it, and I'm just looking for it now. But essentially, the Create keyboard is a simple keyboard case, and it turns it into like a laptop, but you can't do anything else. If you want to put it in landscape mode, you have to take it out of there. If you put it in portrait mode, you have to take it out of the case or just weirdly turn it on its side. So I changed to to their other keyboard case, which I can't seem to find the name of at the moment, and that is it's like a cross between a proper keyboard and the Apple keyboard. It's flexible enough for you to be able to just take it off and stand it up in portrait mode. So that's the one I'm going to keep.
Okay, right.
And also it has it also has a little holder for the pencil as well.
Oh, right, that's nice.
Yeah.
So, so what you're saying is the first one is all right if you really want to turn your iPad into a sort of...
A mini laptop,
Mini laptop, or, maybe not that mini if you've got the 12.9.
Yeah.
As big as my laptop. But if you prefer the sort of freedom of snap on and off, the other one is the better choice.
That's it. It's the Logitech Create. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So I mean, John Martellaro here is saying Apple pays considerable attention to keyboards on laptops. The famous or infamous butterfly mechanism replacing the older scissor mechanism. Backlighting is essential, and he's got a list of some different keyboards that he likes, and I agree with that.
Yeah. I saw on a message forum this week, some wag had come up with the story that they're going to replace the keyboards in the new MacBook Pros with a keyboard called the Moth keyboard. It's going to be very much like the Apple butterfly keyboard, but was going to be better. But he's obviously got a humour.
I like that. Yeah, but it's only available in grey.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And it only works at night, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I know the MacBook Pro 2016, 2017. It's coming for a lot of criticism with the keyboard.
Well, it seems. I can understand if you have a problem with it, it's going to be a massive problem. And yet other people were saying they've had no problems with it at all. So, Apple have got round to admitting that some people have got a problem. Let's put it this way. They admit that they fail more than they ought to. And if you've got a problem, they will deal with it.
Yeah, which is fair enough. Which is also very Apple-like, isn't it? Because when problems arise, they tend to ignore them until you get to a critical mass of people complaining about something, and then they don't admit it, but they just launch a.
If you do have a problem, we'll fix it.
That's it. Yeah.
I love their description, as I put it last week. We have determined that a small percentage of keyboards in certain models of the Apple laptops have a problem, and this covers and then it was like basically every laptop since 2015.
So essentially, it's the
butterfly keyboard.
It's the butterfly keyboard.
Oh dear. Well, what else? What else? Indeed, we're running out of stories, I think. Well, we've got all the security stuff, which is all a bit depressing. So I don't think we want to go into that in too much depth, Pete. But we will, of course, have a word about these. There was I'll tell you what. Before we do that, there was a piece here which was posted on the Hill. Cybersecurity. The ad-based internet is dead, but not because of privacy regulation. And obviously, one of the reasons I picked this up is because it's by Andy Yen, the CEO of Proton, who, of course, who this week, of course, have been suffering a massive DDoS. I don't. Are you a Proton Mail user?
No, I'm not. But I follow your postings about it regularly.
Did you follow? Have you seen them on Twitter?
No, I don't know.
Maybe don't. Well, Proton Mail and Proton VPN have been posting pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Still suffering an ongoing DDoS attack. Right. But we are, mostly up, and they've been very transparent, which is one of the great things.
Yeah.
They will email, as a user, they will email you and tell you we have a problem, and the problem is so. All emails are getting through, but some of them are getting delayed, that sort of thing. And they've been completely open all week, saying we're suffering this ongoing attack, but we are still online, we are still, working. Anyway, which is good, and they've picked up a lot of kudos for that, particularly on Twitter. With people saying, thanks for the openness and telling us what's going on. So this is on the Hill. Andy Yen, from Proton Mail. As he says here, amid the fanfare, the privacy advocates have called for a similar law in the United States. This is he's talking about the GDPR.
Yeah.
Actually, I also read that California wants to enact something which is very similar to GDPR. And as they say in America, where California leads, the rest of the US tends to follow.
Yeah,
So,
and then we follow them.
yeah, or except in this case, we've
actually got there first. Yeah.
Yeah. As he says, this gives the GDPR far too much credit and underestimates the lengths companies will go to protect their cash crop, which is your private information. The GDPR does not stop internet companies from harvesting your personal data, nor does it absolutely require them to use the strongest forms of data security available. As he says, there is another EU data privacy law in the works called e-privacy regulation, but this is even weaker on encryption than the GDPR. And big data companies, particularly Google and Facebook, have mobilised lobbyists to claim this would gut their profits and stifle their innovation. Well, I won't go through the whole article, but what he's basically promoting is that actually, if privacy and data security gets taken seriously and consumers become aware of how much of their data is being hoovered up.
And frankly, if people aren't aware of this, then why not? Because this is all over everywhere. You can't open a newspaper, look at a news story without some sort of data privacy story getting you in the face.
As it says, it's easy to see why these data companies are scared. Online ads are a booming trade, and revenues have increased every year apart from 2008. Big data companies control an unimaginable amount of information about all of us.
Up to on average 1,500 data points on 96% of the US population. And they create psychological profiles of the users, categorizing them from, as example, overwhelmed or anxious based on their behavior.
Users can only avoid this kind of surveillance by leaving Facebook. Well, apparently, of course, part of the whole data thing was that they're profiling people who aren't on Facebook.
Yeah.
Anyway, only 3% of Europeans trust email and cloud storage providers to protect their personal information.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat, isn't it?
Yes, and in the US, 92% of people worry about their privacy online, allegedly. Anyway, what Andy is saying here, the new money is going to be in privacy-focused services, and basically teaching users that sometimes paying a little bit of money for data privacy might be worth your while.
Yes, because let's face it, companies like Google, Facebook don't actually make any products. No. I know Google have recently started making hardware products, but for an awful long time, they were a software company that didn't actually sell you anything. And Facebook are the same. So, you've got to ask yourself, how are they making money?
Yeah. And they're making it as advertising.
Advertising, yeah. And then how do they make their adverts more relevant? They find out more about you. And it turns out, obviously, they've been harvesting data without anyone's knowledge for an awful long time.
I've said in the past, I always felt that Google at least were kind of upfront about it when they started Gmail and whatnot. There was a kind of, we are going to offer you this service, but you have to understand that we will target you with ads and what. But gradually over time, and I've said this before, I became less and less comfortable with that bargain, because what was once a fairly explicit bargain about what they wanted in return for their services became more and more fuzzy. And I've never trusted Facebook as far as I can. We upwind.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Okay.
There we go. Now let's go on to the security, and we'll just skim over those. I think then we'll probably wrap it up. Shall we, Pete?
Okay.
This one was quite scary. The Y-Spear, it says iPhone hacking van. That's not really true, is it? It's a phone hacking van.
Yeah.
I think they put iPhone in there to get clicks. But the Y-Spear phone hacking van is a spy's wet dream. This was on Cult of Mac. And somebody posted here. This is, I believe, from a trade show.
Right.
The Weissbier long-range Wi-Fi interception van. And there's a picture of a van here that looks like something out of NCIS. Yeah. It's full of screens and whatnot. It sounds like a prop from Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Product on, but it yes, it's actually on sale at a recent trade show. This tool can supposedly be used to install malware on iOS or Android devices from a third of a mile away. Allegedly, this forces an iPhone to collect to its Wi-Fi access point, uses a man-in-the-middle attack to snoop the data, and the company behind this tool says it can also install malware.
Difficult to see how it would do that on an iOS device, but I'll be interested to see how it works.
Developed by Tal Dilian, by the look of it.
Former head of the Israeli Defense Forces.
Right, well, it's $3.5 million to $5 million to buy one.
Okay.
Well, it's pretty scary, isn't it, though? You know. It appears that the phone or laptop requires to be connected to a Wi-Fi access point and cannot be used to access a device not using Wi-Fi at all.
Yeah. So if you're, if you turn your Wi-Fi off.
But I'm assuming this works on the thing of when they say forces you to connect to its hotspot. I am assuming it's spoofing. It's going to spoof, Starbucks or whatever.
Yeah, something that you've connected to before or something you trust.
I don't know. I did ask the question of Proton, would a VPN such as Proton, VPN protect you from this? I've not had an answer, probably because they don't know exactly how it works. But there you go. A VPN's got to be a good protection at least, and don't connect to untrusted Wi-Fi.
No. Also, the asking price of $3.5 million to $5 million might put off your average
petty criminal.
Petty criminal, yeah. So
that said, it's
it'd just be the governments that are doing this to us then.
Yeah, mind you, relatively speaking, that's not. It's not big money, is it? Really these days?
No, it's not.
Realistically speaking, it's not that big amount of money. Okay. This one's probably worse. I think, Pete, the HMRC disregards user data protection by collecting 5 million UK citizens' voice recordings. This was quite.
Because people who are phoning HMRC couldn't seem to get through to pass this system that asked it to say my voice is my password on an automated line. It kept on repeating it, although I think they do go on to say that after about 4 attempts, you can at least then get through and speak to somebody. But most people have actually said this, and they've had their voice prints captured now.
As it say, taxpayers are being railroaded into a mass ID scheme, which is incredibly disturbing, said Silky Carlo, a director of Big Brother Watch. Taxman is building Big Brother Britain by imposing biometric ID cards on the public by the back door. Apparently, callers were unable to speak to an advisor without recording their voice. Claimed by Big Brother Watch. Meanwhile, HMRC declined to provide Big Brother Watch with a copy of the privacy impact assessment. And Big Brother Watch claimed the department has yet to consult with the UK data protection.
That's really concerning. Is that they haven't discussed this with the data protection office?
As it says here, capturing people's voice recording without freely given consent or making clear what it is used for would be in contravention of the Data Protection Act and also the EU's General Data Protection Regulation rules. Unless HMRC can demonstrate a legitimate interest in collecting such data. I have to say, I'm pretty sure that the HMRC might have some fairly far-reaching powers, but I don't think recording your voice for voice printing is one of them.
Yeah.
They're not the CIA.
No, and I see the Information Commissioner's Office is now looking into the issue, so hopefully we should get something out of this soon. And I noticed Big Brother Watch managed to get past the system by saying no 3 times.
I mean, I've I don't know if it still works, but if you get on one of those automated bloody robot things that starts giving you a load of things, and actually you know that none of those things are going to be what you want, I get particularly annoyed where you get the ones where it says, touch 1 if you want to pay, touch 2 if you want to make an inquiry about, signing up, touch 3, and no, I've got an inquiry, I want to speak to someone. I don't know if it still works, but it used to work that if you got there, just mash the keyboard. Just press loads and loads of buttons.
I've done that before.
Random buttons everywhere, and the thing just goes, error, handing you over to a human being. I probably shouldn't endorse that, but I do.
I've done
if you get too annoyed, just bash the buttons until it gives you somebody. We don't understand what you want. We'll put you through to a human being. It's quite concerning. Why do the HMRC need to record your voice? As their excuse is, our voice ID system is popular with customers as it gives a quick and secure route into our systems. The ID data storage meets the highest government and industry standards. Well, that doesn't tell you anything.
No, it doesn't. It fills me with loads of confidence.
Yeah, we've locked it up in a vault. No, that's not the point. The point is you didn't ask me for my permission. No, I'm not convinced by that one, I'm afraid. Quite possibly done with the best of intentions, but no, I'm not convinced by that one.
Watch this space. We will revisit that in a few weeks' time, hopefully.
Hopefully to say they've been told either to stop doing it or to explicitly ask people if they want to sign up for it.
Lovely.
Google and Facebook are quietly fighting California's privacy rights initiative. This is the bill we just mentioned, which is similar to the GDPR. And unsurprising, Google and Facebook are sticking the boot in it and hiring lobbyists to try and water it down. I don't think we'll even bother to go into that. It's quelle surprise, really.
Yes.
People have discovered that scammers are controlling their Apple accounts using a feature for families to share apps.
That was quite concerning.
This cropped up. I think it might have been, this might have been on Carl's show, the Mac and Forth show. Scammers in China are hijacking people's Apple IDs and making purchases via the family sharing feature.
Because
scammers are using it to lock the actual owner out of the account and then buy in-app purchases and gift cards. Make sure you have two-factor authentication turned on. Yeah, if you haven't, why not? Especially if you've turned on family sharing. That's that would be again, hacking. People are hacking into people's Apple IDs. I suspect not. If they were actually breaking into people's Apple IDs, I think that would be a massive story. I suspect they are phishing their way into people's...
and as we've said for an awful long time, turn on two-factor authentication.
Social engineering and people using rubbish passwords. Sorry. Obviously, I'm sure it's something Apple should look at, but quite realistically, if you haven't got two-factor authentication turned on, why not? There's no excuse not to have two-factor authentication. I know when Apple first rolled it out, it could be a bit funky and occasionally cause hiccups, but I mean, it's well established now, and it works really, really well. And as well as, obviously, the Apple iCloud two-factor authentication, you've got tools like the Google Authenticator, app, the Microsoft Authenticator app, the independent Authy, if you don't trust Google or Microsoft to be generating codes for you. There is no reason not. You should be second and third factor authenticating everything. Really. Sorry, it's a slightly sad reflection on where we are, but yes, you should.
Okay.
No, I think we've pretty much done them all, haven't we?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what, we haven't mentioned the Disney flying robot stunt double. This was one that somebody, who was it? I think it was Donnie. Yes, it was Donnie. And it comes from The Verge. And Disney have created a flying robot stunt double which can pose like a superhero.
Humanoid bot.
Human bot developed for shows at Disney theme parks. And there's a video of it, and it does look very much like, is it flying or is it doing controlled falling like Buzz Lightyear? I'm not sure. But it looks very good.
It does, the video looks impressive.
And it's Yeah, that's very clever. So there you go. That's only really worth a quick laugh. There's a link there to the Disney video. And they've got a humanoid. Well, it does look really quite thing. I mean, it does its arms and everything quite realistically as it takes off.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. That's quite a fun little video. Oh, and the other one, which is there's no link to this because it was something just something that Dougie Andy J has done in the Slack room. He has built himself a smart mirror using a Raspberry Pi and a two-way mirror and an old display, an old LCD display. So he's got like a bedroom mirror, which when the display is off, obviously works just as a mirror, so you can comb your hair and check your shades and make sure you've got no cabbage in the teeth. And when you turn the screen on, he's got a Raspberry Pi in there with a display which, obviously lights up and shows through the 50% mirror, allowing him to look at the news or whatever.
Clever.
Very clever.
I like the sound of that.
Nice little project that he made for himself with a Raspberry Pi and a mirror and some bits and pieces. There we go. What does he say? Finished my smart mirror project. Really pleased with how it turned out. It's a good way of making use of an old monitor. It runs on a Raspberry Pi, and the screen is set behind two-way glass. And it's looks like a bathroom mirror basically. It's very clever, very clever. So there we go. Right then, Pete.
Okay.
Where can we find you?
Well, I occasionally tweet at Homeboy on Twitter or Suffolk Pete, but apart from that, I'm so paranoid about information being stolen that I stay clear of most other social networking sites.
I don't blame you, mate. I don't blame you. Right. Well, that's fine. Thank you for coming on.
Okay, no worries.
We are, of course, Essential Apple, and we are on the Twitter as @Essential Apple, and I am on the Twitters as @Serenak, and that's SERENAK. You can find the Essential Apple website at essentialapple.com, and I think that's probably about it. We do, of course, have a Patreon, and we have a Pinecast tips jar. Links on the website if you want to support us by giving us money. Please give us money. We're poor. Give us money. We like money. Please send us money. No. If and thank you to the people who do support us. We really do, we really do appreciate it. It doesn't have to be much, £1 a month, a couple of pounds. All helps pay for hosting and the Pinecast and all the rest of the things. I think that's probably about it, Pete. So thank you once again for coming on, and let's say goodbye and bugger off out into the sunshine, shall we?
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. We are part of the mymac.com podcasting network, where you can find such excellent shows as Guy and Gaz on the MyMac Show, Tim and David on the Tech Fan Show, the Three Geeky Ladies, the geekiest show ever, the excellent Bart Bouchots with his Let's Talk, the Club Nintendo, and many, many more.
Hello, I'm Guy.
And I'm Gaz from the mymac.com podcast, and we're here to tell you about a very serious condition plaguing Mac users everywhere.
It's known as BPSI, or Boring Podcast Sleep Induction. It can happen anytime, anywhere, while listening to dull podcasts and driving.
You can prevent BPSI by subscribing to the mymac.com podcast on iTunes. Our podcast is many things, but never boring.
Available without a doctor's prescription. The MyMac.com podcast is not responsible for loss of bodily functions while laughing. Side effects include blurred vision, nervous tics trying not to smile, angry yelling when we say something wrong, and the inability to call our Skype number, which is 703-436-9501. Women trying to become pregnant should not be listening to the MyMac.com podcast, as it will take time away from having sex, which you normally need to do to become pregnant.
So remember, listen to the mymac.com podcast. Think of the children.
I bought a new monitor, by the way.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, last time we spoke, I was wondering whether to go for a 4K display, and I did. But I think I'm going to go back to an ultra-wide 21:9.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, I've narrowed it down now. I'm going to go for a Dell curved 21:9. So I'm going to have 2 monitors for sale soon.
Oh yeah. So what happened to your other big one though? And you wanted a
It's in the front. It's just in the front bedroom. I thought I'll give the 4K a go, and I quite like it. It does make the text in the menu bars and the like quite small, but not unreadable.
I found the biggest thing I found when I got a 5K iMac.
Yeah.
Was the thing that threw me the most at the start is that things like guidelines in InDesign and Photoshop become like about a quarter of the width they were before.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The general size of your interface doesn't change, but things like guidelines, you pull a guideline down in Illustrator.
Yeah.
Or InDesign or Quark or whatever, which used to look like they were a fairly fat sort of cyan line. Center line or whatever. Now they're like 1 pixel thick.
You know what? I haven't tried that. I'm just about to.
They probably were 1 pixel thick before. It's just that 1 pixel was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
It's all right once I got used to it, but at first it was like, where's all the bloody guidelines gone? The thing was, change the colour, go into the preferences and make the colours a bit brighter. So I've got like electric cyan and bloody, RGB magenta now, so I can actually see them because they go down to about the 10th of a point.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Yeah. I haven't tried Quark in this yet either. But
you get used to it, but just the first time you put one in, it's like, did I just pull a guide out or not? Oh no, it's a hairline going across the page there.
Yeah. The other thing is that it's a TN display, although Tom's Hardware gave it a really good review and said, if you're going to use it for semi-professional work and you're on a budget, then this 10-bit TN display is almost as good as an IPS, and also out of the box, it's calibrated really well.
Oh right, that's good.
And it is, because I've tried calibrating it, and there's a small difference.
All right, that's good then.
Yeah.
Has been the Essential Apple Podcast. Goodbye and thank you for listening.